Let's start the Mauricio Pochettino post-game press conference. Let's hear what he had to say after that loss.
I feel disappointed. I feel really bad. I don't feel great. I think the performance wasn't good. We didn't start the game in the way that we're supposed to start. I think we concede the goal so easy. We make the things easy for Arsenal and start the game, losing the game, and it was really tough. We were talking on the halftime that it's not possible to start the game like this, but we started in a bad way again, and conceding 2 goals in this moment. I think the team gave up, and we were not on the game. We are showing this inconsistency, that is why we are where we are, because we are capable to have amazing performance, and 3 days after to show, to be in extremes. Our standard, no sustain the bad days. When we have bad days, we are so bad. And then when we are good, we are capable of everything. That is another thing that we need to, to be aware that we need to increase for the future. In the same way that from here we go here, this group of players from here can move here in a few days. That is a good thing. It's a positive thing, because we are not capable to keep, the focus, and we are capable to go down. And in the same way, we are capable to be here and go high in a few days.
All right, there's a lot to unpack there. Stevie, I'll let you start. What was your takeaway from what was a lot said in a minute and 40 seconds?
Well, he's basically talking about what happens with young players, and I've been trying to figure out how to explain it and make it easy for you. So here's what I come up with. I remember when the average age pretty much of Chelsea's team without Thiago Silva is 23. When I was 23, I was still learning my trade. When I was 23, I was a completely different player when I was 25. That 2-year period of being in the team and out the team. And by the time I hit 24 and a half, I'm playing every game, because I've reached a stage where my level is consistent. It's a different ball game. My football brain was completely different when I was 25 to what it was when I was 23. And so you've got a Chelsea team that are full of 23-year-olds. And so when things get difficult, they don't know what to do. And why should they know what to do? Because they don't have the experience. And more importantly, they don't have anybody on the field when Thiago Silva's not there to lead them. I mean, at least defensively when he's there, they're definitely better. There's no question. He organises them, he helps them. But you need that throughout the side. You can't just throw a bunch of young players together, whether it's the Premier League or anywhere else, and think that every time they step on the field, they're going to be at their best. Pochettino's talking about when they're all at their best, because they've all got ability. And so on certain days when they're all at it, they look like a team. But then unfortunately, because of the youth, because of the inexperience, when they're not at their best, they look so bad and there's nobody to follow. I mean, so this shouldn't really be a surprise to anybody. And I kind of feel a little bit sorry for Pochettino, because he didn't put this team together. He's been told to try and put it together and make it a unit. And it's nigh on impossible, maybe too much to say, but my goodness, what a tough job he's got.
Luis?
Now, Dalen, you're going to have a very easy show today, because everything that Stevie Nicol just said is spot on. It's exactly where I was going. Chelsea's biggest issue is that, number one, they're a little bit like, Derek Zoolander in that first movie when he's looking at himself in the reflection on the road and he's saying, "Who am I?" Like, we don't know who you are, Chelsea Football Club. You have no identity. And Stevie Nicol, when he's talking about the age thing, he's absolutely spot on. Against Manchester City, defensively, Cucurella was the only one playing in that back four. Thiago Silva didn't start. Chabala didn't start. Gusto didn't start. Gusto, who's young in itself anyway. Against Arsenal, right? They had a much younger back line aside from Cucurella, who's still only 25, 26. Now, Enzo Fernandez and Moises Caicedo in the middle. On paper, on FIFA, on Football Manager, it looks beautiful, right? Two wonderful players, international acumen. One of them is 23, the other one is 20. How can you rely on that midfield after the FA Cup game, right, against Manchester City, and then days later against Arsenal, who are trying to win the Premier League title, who are wonderful, by the way. Let's not take away what Arsenal did in that game, 5-0 against Chelsea. And then you go up front, or at least the lineup, and you have Gallagher, Madueke, Jackson. They're all in their 20s. So Stevie is spot on. When you have a youthful side like this, of course you're going to have your good moments and you're going to have your bad moments. But when you don't have experience, when you don't have experienced metal, when you don't have a sort of late 20s, even early 30s in this time of day in the modern football game, then you're not going to have balanced performances. By the way, Pochettino, I'm a massive fan of his. And part of it, a small part of it is his fault, because defensively, you know, they've conceded 57 goals in the Premier League. That's the most in history in the Premier League for Chelsea. And we know that Pochettino can suffer a little bit. But you can't. What can you do when you have this youthful side? You can't do it. Ever since Clear Lake Capital came in the summer of 2022, they've spent more than €1 billion. They came 12th last season. They're 9th right now, right? And it's because the people that they're bringing in, as wonderfully talented as they are, they're kids. You cannot completely fill a unit, a squad, and compete with the likes of Manchester City and Arsenal in the space of a few days and think that you're going to deliver. Of course, this is going to happen. So I'm with Stevie too. You shouldn't be surprised by any of this.
One thing's interesting is you have a team, as we get Stevie back in the mix here, with Clear Lake Capital coming in, as you mentioned. The organization has to be run by people that understand what is needed to win games. So as we just have outlined, Poch has this hand. He's dealt this hand, and he's in this situation. Stevie, is he going to be absolved of this, or ultimately are these guys going to look and say, all right, well, he didn't get it done. On to the next one again. We're going to go our third coach in essentially 3 years of running the ship here. A third full-time coach, I should say. Stevie, is that where we're – or is he going to be given a chance to sit there in the summer, maybe have some input, help work with them to get some guys that actually maybe help this thing become a cohesive unit? What do you think is going to happen to Poch here?
Well, ultimately, he's going to end up going because the way that they've structured the players' contracts, nobody's going to be taking any of their players, whether if they're available or not. Teams won't be able to afford them. They're all on 7, 8, and 9 year contracts. They're all on big money, and so regardless if they want to get rid of a load of players, they're not going to be able to do it. And so nothing's really going to change on the field. Unless all of a sudden half a dozen young players get it, that's pretty unlikely. If that's what you're relying on, then you're in big trouble. And as I said, ultimately the manager eventually will be pushed aside and they'll bring somebody else in. So listen, the key is not always just about the manager. It's about your recruitment, and they've got the recruitment horribly wrong. And that's where they should be pointing the finger right now. The people upstairs who were brought in to do the recruitment have made a complete and utter mess of it. And I don't care whether it's Pochettino or anybody else, when you're dealing with what they have, it's so difficult to try and get some sort of consistency. But again, I'll repeat it. Ultimately, when this doesn't change, because there's no reason why it should change, Poch will go. That's the only thing we know. Hired to be fired, sometimes quicker than others. But when you land at Chelsea the way they are, you're in trouble.
Elemi, you agree?
Yeah, I just wanted to add one point, which Stevie was talking about, you know, the structure and the decision makers, and how after spending more than €1 billion in the summer of 2022, I have to reinforce that to Chelsea fans, because it's not just some number. It's a massive number, right? And, you know, part of the transfers that have come in due to amortization, right? Signing a player for 8 years and then paying it off, you know, over the course of a period, which is also a gamble because anything can happen in 8 years. But here's a big component here, Dalen. In January, we started getting reports and insinuations of basically how the structure works there at Chelsea, where Mauricio Pochettino has a say in transfers, but he doesn't have the powerful say. And most importantly, he can't veto, right? Everything pretty much is down to the sporting directors, Paul Winstanley and Lawrence Stewart. They make the decisions. And in fact, there was a presser where Mauricio Pochettino almost was showing his frustration and how, like, I'm not the one ultimately that really makes all the decisions when it comes to transfers. And that's a big, big problem. If you want to succeed in the Premier League, right? Not just any league, but the Premier League, you have to make sure that your pyramid, your directorial pyramid, from your sporting director to your head of operations to your manager, you're all focused on one objective, right? And the best possible examples of success, whether you're talking about Jurgen Klopp or Pep Guardiola or even Unai Emery right now with Aston Villa or Mikel Arteta now in his 4th season with Edu, everybody is in sync. They're in sync, right? It's the same reason why Manchester United are suffering right now and why Chelsea is suffering, because there clearly doesn't seem to be a sync. So at some point, whether it's Pochettino or the next man in, he needs to have a say on what happens, and the vision needs to be completely parallel with everybody else. And that's not what's happening at Chelsea Football Club right now.